Good morning, everyone. Welcome to an all-new edition of On the Mark TV and radio, here from Westfield Community Programming, 89.5 FM WSKB, and our media partners at Agawam Media and Southwick Community Television. I'm Mark Auerbach here in the studio today with Guy McLain from the Westfield Athenaeum. Guy, it's springtime outdoors.
It's wonderful. I love the new weather, so much better than snow. And it's great because when spring starts coming, I get excited because that means Tanglewood is coming up this summer.
Yeah, Tanglewood's announced it's just about everybody in the Berkshires has announced their summer season. Tanglewood Williamstown Theater Festival is coming back with events. Berkshire Theater Group, Shakespeare and Company, Barrington Stage, Great Barrington Public Theater, the Mahawi. It's all exciting.
It's amazing how much we have here. We just, I think we're spoiled in Western Mass. We don't know how lucky we are to have such a great range of programming, culture right here in Western Mass.
I know that every summer the Westfield Athenaeum does a bus tour to Tanglewood.
Yes.
And either for a Saturday rehearsal or for an actual performance. Have you picked out what you're going to do this year?
We sure have, and I'm really excited. We're trying a little bit of a new experiment. We're going to do a Sunday afternoon concert. Now, we had avoided those in the past because Sunday afternoon is always the busiest time when you get really big crowds there. But we thought what we would do is do a Sunday afternoon this time because there's a really good concert. Also, it's nice because people can go and we're going to get there a little early. People can have lunch and then go to the concert at 2:30. This year, we picked out the one on July 27th, and it's going to feature Lang Lang, the great Chinese pianist Lang Lang. I'm really looking forward to that. I really like some of his interpretations of Debussy and Ravel and others. Is just is very original. He gives an interpretation that's very different than a lot of other pianists. So I think it's going to be he's doing the Saint-Saëns piano concerto, which I think will be very interesting. And then also in the program is Beethoven's Sixth Symphony, the Pastoral Symphony. So it should be a great concert. I'm really excited about it, and I think people will really enjoy it. It's a great day to spend it. It's a great way of spending a day on the Tanglewood grounds that are just so beautiful. And we'll be back to Westfield by probably 6:15, 6:30 at the latest.
So the tickets are inside the shed.
They sure are. We have really nice seats. It's about midway back in the shed. I think it'll be really good. So that way, even if the weather is bad, that won't be a problem because we'll be inside the shed.
Yeah, I mean, I love walking around Tanglewood. It's a beautiful thing, and seeing the Stockbridge Bowl in the background and all that. But there's a couple of other performing spaces at Tanglewood now besides the shed that everybody knows. I had a guest on ArtsBeat, Natalia Bernal, who's a jazz artist, and she and her quintet are performing at the Linda Center there next month.
Yes, and it's wonderful how Tanglewood has expanded over the last 25 years or so. First, they built Seiji Ozawa Hall, which I actually prefer to hear concerts in Seiji Ozawa Hall than in the shed because Ozawa Hall is enclosed on three sides, and that really helps for acoustics. But they've added the Lindy Hall just in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Beautiful building, beautiful space. There's a eating facility there. There's a couple of nice recital halls. It's really nice for small things.
They've added something. Jacob's Pillow's reopening the Doris Duke Theater that burned down a couple of years ago.
Right.
And it's been rebuilt, from what I understand, with the state-of-the-art technology about it, that you can do video, film, and dance all at the same time in this new space. And the Mahawi in Great Barrington opened a second performance space next door to them in the old firehouse is a black box kind of concert
Yes.
hall and theater. A lot
Well,
going on.
Yeah, so far I've only attended 2 concerts in the new Lindy Center. But boy, talking about they've really added great. You can tell they really put a lot of effort into acoustics for these recital halls, and also state of the art speaker systems, and things like that, because they do a lot of lectures and such as well as concert performances there. So I just think that it's just a beautiful. The architecture is beautiful. Ozawa Hall is also a very different kind of architecture, but beautiful as well.
When you go to Tanglewood as Guy McLain, not taking a bus load,
Sure.
do you eat at Tanglewood or do you picnic?
Quite often I eat there. I go to one of the restaurants. It's right down from the main gate. You go past the gift shop, and you go into this facility, and you can, they got picnic tables covered, picnic tables. And the thing about that I really like is there's 3 or 4 local vendors, local restaurants that serve food there. And there's a great restaurant that serves these nice kind of Middle Eastern dishes there. That's a restaurant in Lee. And so I like to go to that facility because I feel like I'm patronizing local restaurants there, even though it's at Tanglewood. So I do that. But Tanglewood also has a couple of nice restaurant facilities. One in the new Lindy Center, and then there's another one. If you go past the shed, if you come in from the main gate, you go past the shed and then go down the hill. There's another nice little facility there that's kind of cafeteria style. If you want to, you can pick from pizza, hamburgers, things like that, salads, things like that.
How can people get tickets to go on the bus to Tanglewood with the Athenaeum?
2 different ways. One, you can just come into the library, go to the circulation desk, say you'd like to purchase a ticket, and you can purchase a ticket right there at the circulation desk. The other way is you can do it online. You can go to our website, westath.org, and you can order the ticket right there. You don't even have to come to the Athenaeum. You can just do that online. And the cost of tickets start at $98. Another experiment we're trying this year is we're trying to make it as affordable as possible. We have to pay for transportation and the tickets as well, and so it adds up. And we're trying to make it as that anyone can go. And so the ticket starts at $98. But what we're doing a sliding scale now that people who want to contribute more can do so when they buy their ticket. But the $98 is, and the idea is if you pay, say, $120, you're helping to subsidize a ticket for someone else who can't pay that much.
Oh, that's great. I mean, it's important that those people who can pay to help the ones that need a little bit of a boost.
Absolutely.
So for people that don't care about classical music but want to know what's going on at the Athenaeum this summer, you got some exhibits going?
Yes, we do. We have, excuse me, we have Abby Steiner, an artist from, she has a studio in East Hampton. She lives in Northampton, and she does these wonderful expressionist paintings, very emotionally wrought paintings, very interesting, and in a very flamboyant artistic style, big kind of bold brushstrokes. That exhibit will open. We have the opening reception for that on May 15th. And that exhibit will go through to the end of June. And then in July, from July through September, we have a group show of, there's an arts organization that's been in existence in Westfield for many, many years, a group of about 14 artists who are going to each provide 2 or 3 paintings for a group show that will be for the second half of the summer in through September.
That's great. And what about programs for kids? Will there be a whole summer array?
Oh, yes. We have summer reading coming up, which is really a big deal. I think this is one of the most important programs we offer. And it goes from the end of the school year, end of June, kind of the end of June, third week of June, through to usually the first or second week of August. And to me, this is one of the most important programs, not only for the Athenaeum, but for public libraries in America. Almost every public library in the United States now does summer reading. And I think it's one of the most important programs that public libraries offer for this reason. Study after study has shown that children, if they don't read over the summer, the literacy skills they gain through the school year really drop off. They lose a lot of the ground that they had achieved to the end of whatever school year they were in. But what studies have shown is that kids who participate in summer reading programs don't lose those literacy skills. So when they start the school year in September, teachers don't have to kind of go back and bring them back up to where they already were in May. So I think summer reading is really important. It also is a way of just keeping kids or in some cases, inspiring kids to be interested in books because they come in there, they get rewards. There's all kinds of reward programs involved with the summer reading, and it really pays off for the kids. The kids really benefit, and we've now expanded it. We now offer a summer reading program for adults because why not get them to participate?
Do you? I know that you're always reading books.
Yes.
Do you stop reading books in the summer when you can be outside and everything else? Or do you read different kinds of books?
Different kinds of no. I'm the kind of reader that apparently from what I was reading very recently, there's been a decline in people reading books. Both the number of people reading books, number one, and number two, the number of books, and surprisingly enough, it's gone down. With the college educated more than any other category, which I find mystifying.
Do you read books? Do you hold a book in your hand? Do you read it on a Kindle or a device, or do you listen to audiobooks?
Because I'm always reading a book. I usually get through 2 to 3 books a month, and that's year round. I do that in the summer, the winter, whenever, and I do it 3 different ways. Which is kind of remarkable. I do it the old traditional way, the old, typical paper-bound book. I also sometimes read books on Kindle. I take advantage of that because sometimes it's very convenient to have it on your phone or on an iPad or something. And thirdly, I listen to audiobooks. I sometimes it's a lot of fun to read a book that's being read to you. And what I found is with the audiobooks, I like to go back to classics that I read maybe 20 years ago or 30 years ago and go back to those books and hear them read. If you find really good readers, I know a lot of other audiobook people the same way. Certain readers are better than other readers, and that's very important.
It's funny because I've had actors in shows in the Berkshires or Hartford come on the show, and you say, well, what are you doing when XYZ show ends? Well, I'm finishing recording an audiobook. And there are a couple of people in the Berkshires. This actor, director, James Warwick, who directed at Chester and the Majestic last year. He's got this gorgeous English voice, and he does a lot of audiobooks.
Yes. I think it can make all the difference in the world. I'll give one example that I experienced. Many, many years ago, I read one of the great 20th century novels, classics, The Good Soldier by Ford Madox Ford. And I didn't get a lot out of it. It just didn't work for me at that time. But I decided I saw it come up on my audiobook profile, books you might be interested in. And I thought, boy, I should try it again as an audiobook. And the actor that read that book was really good, really gave a sense of what Ford was trying to communicate. And I've found myself getting so much more out of the book. And so here's an example where I actually got more out of the book by having it read to me by a good reader than I did when I read it myself 20 years ago.
Yeah, I love audiobooks, especially because I'm driving all the time.
Yes.
And I can't listen to news on radio anymore. I'm sorry for all those great radio news programs out there. I either listen to podcasts or audiobooks.
Yeah. And I think, podcasts are another option it's really, very good for people today to be able to do that. And you're right. You can do this on your commute into work or whatever. And I used to be the type of person who I just read one book at a time. I'd start a book and that's the only book I'd read, finish that book, go to the next book, right? But now I like the fact that I can be reading a book and I can be listening to a book at the same time. So it gives more variety, which I really like.
Is the McLain household full of books?
I have to say I've got a lot. Yeah, probably too much.
Yeah. Do you hold on to them or do you recycle them?
There are books where that I kind of lost interest in or whatever that I have sold to used bookstores or whatever, but I tend to hold on to most of my books. I've got books that I bought 40 years ago that I still own, so I tend to hold on to them, and that's a problem because my bookshelves are full.
Yeah.
That's a real problem.
If they go to the Athenaeum, you can obviously check out an old-fashioned book. Can you check out audiobooks as well?
You sure can. You sure can. We have audiobooks. We also have ebooks. So in other words, you don't even have to take out a physical, because a lot of people in their cars, for instance, don't have the CD, DVD players anymore in them. So one of the things you can do is you can download audiobooks from the library, and so which is a nice service. Now the restrictions are, this gets into some controversy. The book publishing industry, got all upset, worrying about ebooks, taking sales away from them. So they have restricted libraries quite a bit. They charge libraries enormous amounts of money for each title that we purchase from them, which I think in most of the library profession feels is really unfair. But they argue that they're losing sales by going to the libraries. I think that's kind of not the case because people like book. If a person likes a book, they'll buy it themselves, right? And we're going to subscription services and this kind of thing anyway. A lot of companies are doing that, so I think that's kind of a bogus perspective. But it does put certain restrictions on what we can purchase and how many checkouts we can allow. Which is too bad because sometimes a popular book you have to wait in line for it. When it's an ebook, it should be available to anyone, but we are restricted by the publishing companies. But that being said, we do have ebooks available, both the kind where you can read on your Kindle and ebooks that are audiobooks. So you have those options that you could use your library and save a lot of money because the audiobooks can get expensive after a while.
They sure can. We're going to take a break to acknowledge our underwriters. We'll be back to chat more with Guy McLain from the Westfield Athenaeum. While we do, you can find out what's happening at the Athenaeum at westath.org. Peter Coles is our chief engineer. I'm Mark Auerbach. Don't go away.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Dunkin' Donuts shops of Westfield and the Sardinia family. It's nice to know that even as the world changes, Dunkin' Coffee remains the same at 7 convenient locations throughout Westfield.
Underwriting is brought to you by Boise Cascade Distribution, providing products and services needed for building material dealers, home improvement centers, and industrial customers. They offer everything from engineered wood and plywood to Drex decking and railing, James Hardy siding, and Advantech subfloor. Located at 33 Fowler Street Extension in Westfield and on the web at bc.com, they are committed to providing quality products, great service, convenience, and value.
Listen to me, Michael Buster McMahon, Mondays 8 to 10 a.m. to learn the stories behind your favorite songs. Or don't. I'm not the boss of you.
Community Radio
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM WSKB Westfield.
Welcome back to On the Mark. I'm Mark Auerbach. Peter Coles is our chief engineer. If you missed a part of today's program, want to watch it again, or share it with somebody, it's archived along with all of our programming on WSKB Community Radio on YouTube. So that includes all of the programs you get to hear or watch here every day. They're all archived. You can go back through the archives and see Guy McLain and me talking on a regular basis, probably for 5 years.
Oh, yeah, it's been quite a while. Yeah.
How long have you been at the Athenaeum?
Let me see. About four and a half years now. So we go back. I think we started doing programming shortly after I started.
I think you walked in the door and put your payroll information down and came here. We were the first person you talked to.
I think so. I think it was very, because I think you interviewed me as the new director of the Athenaeum. So that had to have been right after I started.
Because we knew each other sort of when you were at the Springfield Library and Museum years ago.
Yes. Back in the old days when I was over in Springfield. Yes.
Yeah, but how has life changed for you over these 4.5 years here in Westfield?
Well, it's been an exciting experience. I've really enjoyed it because when I first started the job, the library was still closed because of the pandemic, and a lot of staff had left. Anytime you close down a facility for a year or more, it really changes things. And so I had to build the staff back up. We had to figure out how to reopen because there were still questions about, protecting people from COVID and this sort of thing. So that was my first experience. But what was interesting about that is we were able to review a lot of policies, procedures, hours of operation, what kinds of programs we wanted to do. Also, I was able to bring in new staff, new talent, and from there we built a great program. Among the things we instituted very quickly is we started a series of art gallery shows that, like we talked about today. We've got shows going on this summer. We started a completely new program with that, bringing in regional artists who are doing cutting-edge work. We also expanded the History Museum of the Athenaeum. The Athenaeum has a wonderful collection of artifacts that document the history of Westfield, going back to 1669, the founding of the town. In a time period where Western Mass was only had a few villages here, and we've got records going back from that time period all the way up to the current day. We've got artifacts, all kinds of interesting things from the companies that made products in Westfield, the whip industry.
I got a question. You have old newspapers and magazine articles from way back when. How do you keep them from turning yellow? And do you have climate-controlled storage?
Well, we do have climate-controlled storage, but newspapers are especially challenging. Newspapers, because they were mass-produced, are on very acidic paper, and there's nothing that a conservationist can do to slow down that. So the best solution for newspaper, for retention of newspaper, the information from newspapers, is to digitize them. And so Westfield papers, many other newspapers across the country, libraries have been doing this for decades now, digitizing newspapers, and that's the way most people access papers now.
I was thinking about that because I wrote and edited for the Jewish Weekly from the mid-'90s until, I think, 2004.
Yes.
And I have all these boxes of old newspapers. Now, they're okay, but they're starting to fade and turn yellow, and I probably should digitize them, right?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely the case. Any publication, a small publication that hasn't been digitized, you should digitize it. Now, we've kept the newspapers back to the early 19th century that were different newspapers that were here in Westfield, but in some cases they're so fragile you can hardly open the paper.
Were there more than one newspaper in Westfield?
Oh yeah, there's been several periodicals that have existed over the years, and that was very standard. Springfield had 4 or 5 newspapers. Most towns had 1 or 2 different publications at different times. They were very different through different periods. For instance, if you go back to some of the early Westfield papers, many times, like something we take for granted, like obituaries, which gives a nice write-up on the person, this sort of thing, telling about who their children are and who survived them and this sort of thing. Obituary, you just get a notice, someone died, and that was it. But they had advertisements at that time, and many historians use early 19th century newspapers to document things like what kind of products were people buying, what was out there at that time.
Yeah, my grandparents grew up in North Adams, and there is a North Adams Historical Society on Facebook. And I saw an ad not too long ago. My grandfather had a shoe store, and a cousin had next to them a fruit and vegetable store, and they were selling bananas for 2 cents. And I went, "Whoa!"
Yeah.
Times have changed.
You can really document, what products were cost, what people were buying, how they were buying things, and also too just the existence of stores and things. How many businesses who were in a town for only maybe 10 years or something.
Do you know? Did Westfield have movie theaters?
Oh yeah.
And what about live theaters, stage
theaters? Yes. At one time, through the years, Westfield had 3 different theaters where performances were done. There was actually a Westfield Opera House that did, and of course, Opera House in the 19th century means something different than it does
vaudeville.
now.
Vaudeville.
They mainly did vaudeville productions, but sometimes classical music groups would come through and perform. You would even have operas, actual operas.
It was explained to me when I was at the Mahawi in Great Barrington doing a story. We actually took a crew there and did it from the stage, that the Mahawi, a now defunct theater in Lee, and the Colonial in Pittsfield were on the railroad tracks, and they were part of a vaudeville circuit. And so the actors would play Great Barrington one day, Lee the next, Pittsfield the day after that, and North Adams the day after that.
Yeah.
And they were located right by the train stations, and they had a hotel nearby. And they did vaudeville, they did itinerant orchestras, occasionally a play, but it was all traveling stuff. There was no resident.
Right, and that was very standard in most cities. For instance, in Springfield, the Boston Symphony would come out and do 5 concerts a year in Springfield.
And where?
In one of the great theaters that's across from Symphony Hall now. Is called Court Square Theater.
Yeah, my father told me that the Court Square Theater was beautiful. And I remember when I worked at the Springfield Symphony, our offices were in that building. The marquee was still standing, but the theater was turned into a parking lot.
Right.
But you could see on the side of the building where the balconies had been.
That's right. That marquee, that building is where the Court Square Theater was, and
the Boston Symphony.
And the Boston Symphony performed there, like in the 1890s. And one of the great composers at that time, George Chadwick, would come out from Boston. He was the head of the Berklee School of Music, still one of the best places to go to study music. He would come out every May for the May Festival in Springfield and conduct that. He was one of the great, he was one of the 2 or 3 most important composers in America in the 1890s, and he would come out for a week and conduct the May Festival in Springfield. So major groups had come through, and then also too, the Springfield Symphony that we know of today only came into existence in the 1940s. There were 2 previous symphony orchestras in Springfield prior to what we know as the Springfield Symphony now.
I came to Springfield as an adult to work at the Springfield Symphony, and at the time, a couple of the violinists were founders of the symphony in 1944. And they could talk about the previous orchestras.
Yeah, because there was a big one in the 20s and 30s that had been very active.
And they said that there was theater at there was vaudeville at the Capitol Theater, shows at the Paramount, the Court Square, and I remember from my childhood a couple of the movie theaters that are long gone, but Springfield was always a cultural center.
Oh, yeah, there was many activities, and there was the famous Tilly's Theater that a lot of groups came through, and for a long time there was a restaurant in downtown Springfield called Tilly's, named after the Tilly's Theater, and so, the person who, Tilly, the person who owned and ran that theater for many years, was very, very successful, and later on went and founded an opera house doing similar kinds of things in New York City. So Springfield had connections to both Boston and New York in terms of cultural stuff. In fact, I would say 1890s Springfield had a lot more culture offer than they have today.
Yeah, I'm sure. We're out of time, Guy McLain, but you'll have to come back because we'll have to talk more about the Athenaeum. But we should do a program about the arts and the history of the arts in Westfield and Springfield at some point, because I'm not aware of any of the arts prior to the time I arrived, really.
Yeah, I think it would be a great program. It'd be very interesting to talk about that.
We're going to do that this summer.
Okay.
In the meantime, find out what's happening at the Westfield Athenaeum at westaf.org and sign up for that Tanglewood trip.
Absolutely.
Guy McLain, thanks for being here. We're going to take a break to acknowledge our underwriters, and we'll be back with more On the Mark. Peter Coles is our chief engineer. I'm Mark Auerbach. Stick with us.
Support for community radio on WSKB is provided by Betts Plumbing and Heating Supply Company, an independent, family-owned wholesaler serving Westfield for over 50 years, specializing in plumbing, heating, and industrial piping supplies. On the web at bettsplumbing.com or at 14 Coleman Avenue in Westfield.
Hi, it's Bob Plass, and I have Wow, It's Tuesday, every Tuesday, 6 to 8. Wow, it's Tuesday.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
I did it!
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Welcome back to On the Mark, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Auerbach. Peter Coles is our chief engineer. This half hour, we are meeting with a group of students from Western New England University and their faculty advisor, Brenda Garten-Schoberg. And we're here for another segment of What Young People Think. These students are all in classes at Western New England University, and I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves. Tell me where you're from, what year you are at Western New England, and what you're majoring in. Good morning to all of you. So who wants to start?
I can start.
Okay.
So my name is Jessica Brown. I am a seniors health study major in the 3+3 Doctor of Occupational Therapy program. So I'm still a senior, but I'm also a first year OT student. And yeah, that's kind of. I'm also from.
How much longer do you have to go as a senior in a professional program?
So I have 2 more years total. So it's a 3+3. So it's 6 in total, and I'm on year 4 right now.
Okay. So it's really kind of like undergrad and graduate school combined.
Yeah, so right now I'm only taking graduate courses. I have classmates who are fully graduated from undergrad and who chose to come here for grad school. I'm just kind of skipping the senior year part, and I get to do all the fun stuff at the end. So.
And where are you from?
I'm from Douglas, Massachusetts.
Okay, and then let's see, one of the other two introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Marissa Bell Isaac. I am a sophomore here at Western New England University, and I'm currently studying communications with a concentration in media and journalism.
Terrific. And we have one more. Good morning. I think you're...
Hi, my name is Alexis Torres. I'm a junior marketing, communications, and advertising student.
I think we have a little.
I'm sorry?
Why don't you?
We have a little Wi-Fi issue.
Yeah. So why don't you reboot and let Brenda introduce herself. Good morning, Brenda.
Good morning. How are you, Mark? It's so nice to be back on your show again, and it's always a pleasure to introduce our great Western New England University students on this sparkling day. Alexis, I believe that you might have Wi-Fi back now, so go ahead and bring your microphone back on. And I think Alexis, you may need to change locations. That's technology, isn't it, Mark? And how it's woven our way into all of our
Sometimes
careers.
technology is on our side. Sometimes it isn't. You want to try and introduce yourself again?
I think she's actually not able to right now.
I think
with the
she's
Wi-Fi.
frozen. So maybe somebody can text her and tell her to reboot. So in the meantime, Brenda, I know things are wrapping up for the school year. By the time this program airs in a couple of weeks, the actual sessions will be over. But you and a group of people will be packing up to go on a summer abroad program to Italy.
That's right. In fact, Alexis and Marissa are going this summer, and Jess went 2 years ago to our Sorrento Study Abroad program there in Italy, right along the Amalfi Coast at the Sant'Anna Institute. And it is truly a life-changing experience. You think about college as being memorable moments, and where you're our age to go back and look at what happened in college and how it transformed you, and breaking new barriers and surrounding in different locations. And this study abroad experience certainly does that for these students. It changes them for the better. And I think, Alexis, we have you back now. You're not frozen anymore.
Yeah.
So
So
perhaps you
Alexis,
would like
introduce
to-
yourself now that you're back with us.
Hi, I'm Alexis Torres. I'm a junior marketing, communications, and advertising student, and I'm from West Springfield, Mass.
Okay, so you went a long way to go to college, right?
I guess so.
So we were talking a little bit about study abroad and what it does for you. Which one of the three of you has already gone on the program?
I have. The summer of 2023, I went.
What did you come home with after? How many weeks was it? 3 weeks?
3 weeks, yeah. And honestly, what didn't I come home with? I had such an amazing experience. It was definitely, I can say with the utmost confidence, the highest point of my college career. I learned cultural sensitivity, communication. I'm not a business student, so learning about like business and international business was like actually super interesting. I really just like grew a love of traveling. I met so many amazing people on the trip. I could literally take up this entire show with things that I've gained, so I'll stop it there.
What was the number one thing you came back with, I should say, after you were there for 3 weeks? Would you tell other people to travel if they have the chance? And what would be the one thing you would tell them to try to experience as a student going abroad?
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. That's such a great question. I would say the thing that I gained the most is just my ability to be independent. I've always grown up being really independent, but being plopped in a country on the other side of the world, with a bunch of people who I was kind of friends with, but like didn't know all that well, and it's just like, here, figure everything out for the next couple of weeks. I mean, we had a lot of guidance from Brenda and Brandon O'Brien, who was our other chaperone on the trip, but it really just was. I was able to get out of my comfort zone and really just grow in my own comfortability with myself. I would definitely recommend travel for other students. I think I cannot speak highly enough of the study abroad experience that I had. And I think that the main thing that I would recommend students to see is Capri and the Amalfi Coast, and really just like the boat rides on the water and the food. And it was not one experience of the trip that I would change. So literally just all of it. It was amazing.
A couple of weeks ago, I interviewed a editor from Milk Street, the TV program that's about cooking, and he had spent several months in Italy photographing food and learning recipes from Italian mamas and grandmothers in the various regions of Italy. This book probably weighs 10 pounds, and it is full of the most gorgeous photographs. And I haven't tried any of the recipes, but it made me want to get on a plane immediately and go to the Amalfi Coast just to see he had photographs of these huge lemons growing in groves that you walked under. And he had recipes for limoncello and tiramisu and all these great things. So first thing I thought about was Brenda Garton's summer trip for Western New England University students going to Italy.
I would say that if the book weighs 10 pounds, you will probably gain 10 pounds by cooking everything from that cookbook. However, the great part about Italy is that you do walk everywhere. So we're walking 10, 12 miles a day. And it's so nice also. Great comments, Jess. But to get away from everything online and to get away from our cell phones and the addiction that so many of us have maybe to social media, to really experience that moment and to be there also is quite a great benefit for the trip too and for our students. And then Marissa and Alexis are going this summer.
So
and
Marissa and
been
Alexis
influenced a little by Jess, because Jess told them that they should go on the trip.
Yeah, Marissa and Alexis, you're going. Have either of you traveled before? And what do you want to get out of 3 weeks in Italy?
I have traveled before. I travel a lot with my family. But the 3 weeks for Italy, I just am so excited to learn about the Italian cultures over there. We're going to see Pompeii, which I have loved since I was a kid. So just being able to physically see it in person is super, super exciting, and learning about their cultures, and with the business class, seeing how businesses are over there as well.
And what about you?
I have never traveled outside the country before, so this is going to be a first for me, and I'm very excited. As somebody in marketing, I'm very excited to see how small businesses market themselves in Italy, knowing that the majority of them are family owned. How do they get the word around about their businesses? So I'm very excited for that, as well as all of the beautiful sights that we're going to see over there.
Yeah. Brenda, when did Western New England start international travel programs for their students?
Oh my goodness. Western New England has been providing study abroad experiences for decades at the university. This trip to Sorrento began in 2016, and we've been taking students there ever since to Sorrento at the Santana Institute.
Now, this institute, is it a similar academic type of program to Western New England?
It is. It's a smaller school. It actually started as a foreign language school. And then Cristiana Panico, who's the president of Santana, purchased it several years ago, more than maybe closer to 10 to 15 years ago or so, and turned it into this study abroad location now. So universities across the country, colleges all across the country send their students there to Santana. So you're not only meeting people there in Italy, but also American students who are studying there from different various colleges and universities.
And so you, as the faculty advisor, do you actually teach there, or are you more of a guide?
No, I do teach a class. It's a typical class that I teach on campus every semester. It's a business communication class. However, teaching it there provides more international examples and experiences and lessons about international business and different profiles that they would do, certainly here in the classroom on our Springfield campus.
And so you get a chance to interact with Italians on the street as well as Italian students. What do you think, to any of the three of you, what is the most important thing about meeting people whose ideology and culture is different than yours?
I would think that the most important thing is, sorry, Alexis, to really just become like a well-rounded individual. You could be stuck in this one bubble of certain ideology or a certain way of thinking for your whole life and then never be able to experience or like empathize with other people and what they've been going through. So I think being able to learn and just see these firsthand lived experiences from other cultures, and not even just the Italians who are there, like other students from other countries who are coming to study abroad. It really gave me a new like worldview on just our whole world. It was awesome.
Did it make it easier for you to understand and accept people whose points of views were different?
Yeah, definitely. I think, while we had limited contact with a lot of other students, I was definitely able to learn a lot more about like the business owners in particular and like running a family business and all of that. So being able to almost like put myself in their shoes when they're talking of, oh yeah, no, this makes sense why you're doing X, Y, and Z this way. Now, I'm not going into business, but as someone who hopes to, eventually run my own practice, like that was like some of those softer skills I will definitely take into my future.
Well, and any doctor has to have a good sense of business in order to run a good practice. Is there a foreign student population on the Western New England campus, Brenda?
Oh, yes, we do. We have many foreign students from various different countries around the world, and that's growing every year, as a matter of fact. And Alexis, I think you wanted to also comment on the previous question. What were you also going to say about looking forward to your study abroad experience?
I definitely agree with everything that Jess said. But in addition to that, like I said, I've never been outside of the United States before. So I'm excited for the reality of how big the world really is and how small we are over here in the US, and to just realize that there's such a big world out there, and to just meet so many people that have different perspectives and ideas than I do.
Are you going to learn any Italian language before you go? Any basics?
I've been practicing Duolingo a little bit. I've learned a little bit of words, but I'm definitely gonna have to practice it a lot more when the semester ends before we get on that plane.
Yeah, Brenda probably knows this, but back during the year after the Gulf War, I went to Israel with another reporter to do a series, and I did not speak a word of Hebrew. My second language was French, and they sent me to school. The only thing I came back with was hello, goodbye, please, thank you, I'd like a latte, and where's the restrooms? And learning those basic phrases made my time there a lot better, although I did learn a little more. So hopefully you'll learn hello, goodbye, please, thank you, and where's the gelato, and that'll help you on the streets of Sorrento. We're going to take a very fast break to acknowledge our underwriters. We'll be back more to chat with students from Western New England University about what young people think. Peter Coles is our chief engineer. I'm Mark Auerbach. Don't go away.
Underwriting for Community Radio on WSKB is brought to you in part by Rockies. Over 30 convenient locations throughout Massachusetts, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, Connecticut, and Florida. One of the nation's largest ACE dealers. Expertise and great product selection in paint, hardware, lawn and garden. That's Rockies. Rock solid service since 1926. On the web at rockies.com.
Join me, Tina Gorman, each week from 6 to 8 a.m. for Wake Up Wednesday, when my guests and I discuss health, wellness, and lifestyle reimagined.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Welcome back to On the Mark, a segment on what young people think here on Westfield Community Programming, 89.5 FM WSKB, and our media sponsors at Agawam Media and Southwick Community Television. Peter Coles is our chief engineer. I'm Mark Auerbach. If you missed a part of today's segment, or you want to watch it again or share it with your friends, it's archived on YouTube under WSKB Community Radio. And Brenda, I realize that we probably have 5 or 6 years of what young people think with students from Western New England University archived on YouTube at this point in time. We've been doing this a long time.
Isn't that wonderful? It's terrific that you are showcasing and highlighting our students in this way and hearing what their thoughts are on so much and how the world has changed even in the last 6 years.
Yeah.
But it also gives us both hope and inspiration for the future, because I think we're in pretty good hands when you see students like Alexis and Marissa and Jess and all the other great students that we've had on the air as they talk about their thoughts and opinions of the state of the world.
And it's so great for me when I go back and look at these programs and see some of the students that have appeared on it who have gone on to things. I'm very proud of Addie Patterson, who was a student of yours, who now, yeah, she works at Western Mass News, and she works for my company part-time. And every time I get a chance to sit and chat with Addie, she reminds me that the first time we ever met was on a program like this.
Isn't that great? I'm so proud of Addie Patterson and her reporting at Western Mass News. As a matter of fact, I just connected recently on the Pope's passing, when Pope Francis passed the next day. She wanted to do a story with Italian reaction, and she connected with my dear colleague Olga Stinga, who's an operations and vice president at Santa Ana, operations director as well. And that's who she interviewed for her story for the 11 o'clock news here in Western Mass. So people who saw that, it was terrific that they could connect on Zoom and had a wonderful interview to share the Italian opinion and perspective of his passing.
Yeah. I want to ask the three students. I mean, we're in turbulent times right now. The globe is a mess. There's so much disorganization and chaos amongst all of us in the United States. You're all studying or dealing with communication on one level or another. From your perspective, in your everyday life, what part of, if you were given or put in charge for a couple of days, what element of communication that's missing right now would you like to see there? What would you like to change? Whoever wants to go first can go first.
I think
Sorry. The first thing that came to mind, I feel like over here, especially in our generation, everything is over the phone, whether that's texting. A lot of things can be misinterpreted, and it leads to a lot of miscommunication. So I feel like even going to Italy and seeing how they communicate in person, I doubt all of their communications will be over the phone, like we text on Instagram and stuff over here. So I would definitely say rerouting to that in-person, face-to-face, where you can really see emotion and intention behind it.
Do you feel tied down to your phone every day? I mean, I know you get your news on it. You probably get your entertainment from it and your interactions. Do you feel tied down to it? Can you put your phone down and walk away?
Sometimes I can, but for work, and I'm in marketing, so everything is on my phone. So sometimes it can definitely be hard to disconnect.
I feel that way too. And so I don't know if people can see it, but I got rid of my smartphone and went back to a flip phone because I found myself in non-work situations staring at my phone. And I'd be out having coffee with somebody or in a meeting and staring at the phone. This way, in a flip phone, if somebody texts me or calls me, I can respond, but I'm not going to Facebook or LinkedIn or anything else while I should be concentrating on a human being. What about the other two? What's the big communication issue you face? And you're a communication student. What do you think the biggest challenge down the road's going to be?
I also agree with Alexis, just that we're made to be social people, and that with the phone, and it can be lost and misinterpreted without seeing the emotion, and just seeing that that reaction with people, just having a genuine talk with another person has changed so much from when I was younger till today. So just maybe even just putting out like a video, not necessarily being face to face, but showing that human emotion and human reaction.
Do you find it difficult to communicate with somebody face to face? Have you forgotten that skill now that we're so dependent on our phones?
I personally actually communicate better with people face to face more than I do on my phone. And I love being interactive in person with another person. Phone calls can be sometimes difficult for me versus having that in person social interaction.
Do any of the three of you ever hold a newspaper in your hand or get your news from radio or television?
I definitely do.
Yeah, when I'm home with my parents on like breaks and stuff, we always have the news watching or on the TV. We still get the local paper. I still know how to navigate the local paper and like the different pages, and I don't know. I feel like it's a lost skill with these new generations coming in, and I think especially too after COVID, just with the increase in technology, obviously like that is super helpful to a certain degree, but then we can also kind of think about the that lost that we have of almost like more traditional routes when going about communication and like writing letters. Who writes letters anymore? Why can't we bring that back? I think there are just so many things that we
I
can do with
actually had to write a letter, a handwritten letter, a note, a condolence note, and I realized I do everything. It's all email. I seldom sit down and write.
They even have college elective courses now on cursive writing because students have never experienced that often like we did back in elementary school. And so how to write it and how to read it has become a lost art.
I've taken up writing with a fountain pen because as a kid I was amazed by the various tips you could put on it and the cartridges. But to find the cartridges to use in an old fountain pen, we don't have stationery stores anymore. So just about everything I do is with my fingers on email or text. One last question before we go. With everything that's going on in the world right now, where do you get your news?
I typically get it from social media, and my phone has a news app within itself. So I'm able to get notifications from them and kind of see what's up to date within current events.
And when you go to a news app, where does that news come from?
It comes from different sources. Some of them is the New York Times, some of them can be local. So for us in Springfield, it's the Republican. It pulls it from a whole bunch of different websites and kind of gives me a general idea of what is going on around me.
Okay, and if you want something more specific, where do you go? Do you go to the actual site?
I can also search it on that news app, or I can also go into that site and kind of go into Google and Google the information that I'm looking for.
Great. We are out of time, and I want to thank the three students. Thank you to all of you. And Brenda Garten-Schoberg, thanks for setting this up. It's always good for our audience to know what young people think because our audience is older, and our audience may have grandchildren or children your age. And sometimes we forget what young people think because your opinions are so valid. I want to thank all of you for being here today. And this wraps up this edition of What Young People Think and On the Mark from Westfield Community Programming. Peter Coles has been our chief engineer. I'm Mark Auerbach. We'll see you next week.
When you're in love, you are the loneliest. You're only half when one is what you were. You're part instead of whole when you're in love. You are the loneliest. Sitting by your side as the day drifts by, seeing how you frown when you get impatient, helping you hold on to a moment that made you happy. Hoping that you'll think what I say is right, wanting you to laugh at my unintended charm. When you're in love, you're never satisfied. The thing you want is always out of reach. A need without a name. When you're in love, you're never satisfied.
Sitting by your side as the day drifts by, watching how you try when I'm done with little plans that I know will make you happy. Hoping when I tease that you'll put up a fight. Wanting you to know all the funny things I am. When I'm sitting by your side,
Seeing how you frown,
watching how you try,
hoping that you'll think what I say is right.
making little plans,
Sitting by your side as the day drifts by.
Now I'm hoping that you feel all the things I feel. Wishing that you want me to sit beside you. Wanting now to learn all the things you are. Waiting for a chance to invite you in my heart.
Talking in a car in the afternoon, sitting by your side on a sunny day.
When you're in love,
When you're in
you'll only
love, the
have.
thing you want.
When you're in